Welcome, everybody. Talking about sales engineering today, and mostly what we're going to deal with are demos of software, but I think this kind of applies to any kind of demonstration. And I say talking about it because I'm going to set aside some special videos of actually going through using a lot of this practice to show an actual demo, a presentation that has a demo as part of it, and start to take some of the theory that we've been talking about and putting it into some sort of practice where we're looking at actual software being presented, or at least presenting the demo of the software. So, as in all the videos that I do in the Sales Engineering University or training track, the videos here are not meant to be small and quick and trivial and trite. They're meant to be thorough examinations of a topic, and I do try my best to get them under an hour with one topic instead of having to split it across multiple videos. I try. But I'm doing all this off the top of my head because I've just done it and written about it so much, so I can't really say exactly how many minutes something is going to take. So that disclaimer out of the way, the first thing we want to talk about, I like to start broad, like big picture, and then we narrow things down into how to make those decisions meet the road, right? So the first thing we talk about is why. Why would you do a demonstration of software in the first place? Because it takes time, it takes energy, it takes whatever, resources. Clearly, we are sales engineers, right? So there is a component here of closing a deal, but as we all know, there is also a sales or investment, or there's an investment in time, resources, money, experience, etc. And if it's going toward one thing, that's not going to another. So if you're taking a sales engineer and you're devoting them toward a demo for one prospect, or other kinds of demos that we'll talk about, that means that sales engineer is not working on something else. And you're not necessarily a bell ringer when you're a sales engineer, 8 hours, hit the clock and slide down the dinosaur. But you do, you do your best work when you're not left hand doing one thing and right hand doing the other, right? We do our best work when we're focused on one thing, make lots of quick progress on it. That's just how we do it. Spending 30 minutes here, then an hour there, and then 45 over here isn't as productive a use of time as concurrent concentrated time, as I call it. So one of the things that we're going to return to over and over again, and we've seen this in the earlier videos, is one of my triad circles here. I'll just put a generic one in here, and because this applies to almost everything, them, us, and just for now, I'm just going to call it reality. All right, so we're gonna return to this in a little bit for each of these that we talk about, especially this first one. But think about it. Why do we offer a demo? Why would you say, hey, how about a demo in the sales process? Does that really make sense? And how and why are prospects calibrated, if you will, why prospects are, I don't know, coached or used to asking or even demanding a demo? So have you been a pro? And we're talking about software, and we're talking about serious sales engineering here. Okay, we're talking about big ticket software, medium to big, right? Software that starts at around software and services around, I don't know, 5 to 10K and up into six figures, which happens. I've done both. A lot more high ticket sales than I have done low ticket sales, because I think the threshold for using a credit card versus actually having a process and a team and et cetera, and building a relationship has moved, right? We're getting to the point where the dollar value of what we're going to call a tactical sale versus a strategic sale this threshold has been going up. And what that means is that more and more people are considering whatever you're selling a commodity, and they can simply compare prices. No differentiators. We have certain terms that are ancient terms that are sexist that I could use. But basically, it's this why do I have to expend resources? I spend $0 here. They just go to what do you want? There it is. They come to me, versus lots of dollars for a sales cycle that could take up to 18 months that I've seen with telephone companies, for example, or certainly any kind of government work above six figures. So what is it that we're talking about here? Why do we do this? Well, you need to ask yourself, your sales team, because remember, most of them don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to take advantage of your skills. So when you're, like, for example, most companies won't bring the sales engineer at the very beginning, which they should do. They make promises, they make whatever, and then you have to sit there and with the truth in one hand and what they said in the other, a lot like this. What they expect, what we expect, and where the reality is lies in between. So why would you offer a demo in the first place? Well, you don't, first of all, in strategic sales, you don't offer a demo. And this might come as a shock to some people. We don't ever offer anything. Especially a demo. Why would we do that? Well, let's say suppose they're going to buy anyway. Hey, go ahead, buy the software. Fantastic. Why am I going to introduce anything that would give them doubt, right? They're trying to give me money and I'm still selling. They call it overselling, right? We don't offer anything to anybody. And here's the problem, because in the sales cycle, a typical rep where you have close, and I use 5 basic steps here, but whatever methodology you happen to use, the sales rep will, and we're going to return to this, the sales rep will say, lead with the demo. Why do they want to do that? Because they don't like long qualification. They just want to know, are you interested in this or not? They didn't do any of the legwork to qualify the prospect, which is the important thing to do. They just said, hey, I got a meeting with somebody. Maybe I'm paying somebody to go out there and cold call and do set up meetings. I got somebody. Let's go out there and give a demo. Hey, you, come here. Let's go. Let's give a generic demo, right? You ever heard this? There should never be a generic demo, not in high-ticket software. Generic demos don't help at all. That's phishing. That's trawling. That's the most inefficient way to possibly sell strategically. Now, if you're selling tactically, then why not just have a movie that somebody can download that's a generic, here's a special link, or give it to the public or whatever. If the rep doesn't want to do their job, then fine. Just have that off to the side. If that's what the sales manager and your management wants them to do, then fine, off they go. But don't play games. Taking the resources of a sales engineer to do a demo in the sales cycle is, or the first thing in a sales cycle is inefficient. It doesn't work. and it doesn't follow any type of methodology of qualification. You just started. You just got a meeting. Who's qualifying who? Nobody's qualifying anybody. If you do anything, it is if you're forced to do one right at closing. Now, I'm going to return to this in more detail, but this basically asks the question, your rep should be asking the question, that is, to the prospect, if I show you that what I've claimed and what I've displayed and submitted to you and everything is true and the software can do exactly what I said, will you give us a letter of intent? Will you buy the software? Is that it? It's meant to be a closing argument. A fabulous sales manager once told me, he said, if you have done your job correctly, from here to here, a demo shouldn't even be necessary. You shouldn't have to do a demo. And that's a very wise rep, because most reps will say, just throw demos at them, throw them at the wall, waste resources as much as you can. And you know how reps get, right? I'm sorry, but I'm a pretty honest guy. Reps will use everybody to do their job for them and then blame them if it doesn't work. Too many times we get sucked into their way of doing things, which is ad hoc and turbulent and follows no sort of efficiency. And then we find ourselves not helping the reps that they have a methodology they're trying to use that has a high degree of closing. So just touching on this one real quick, you have to ask the rep, why are we doing this? What is it that we're doing? I mean, why are we doing this demo in the first place? What will it achieve? I don't know. I got a meeting. So I'll tell you, this is some grippy ink. Oh yeah, that's much better. Oh yeah, much better. Sorry about this thing sliding around. I don't have, it's not on like tape or anything or oh man, this is, okay, got to use red sparingly, I can see. Some of my colors are dry right now. Sorry if that bothers you. Looks dirtier to me than it does on the camera, I can tell. Right there, somewhere. There you are. So I won't use the oranges as much, maybe. Maybe some of these little guys. So the second question we're going to ask ourselves, because we asked about why, ask your reps or their manager who's approving the meeting, the expense, the travel, the whatever, could you close, I'll just say, could you close without a demo? A very simple question. Do you need this? And don't just take a yes or no. How? How are you proposing to close without a demo? And if you say it's essential, then why? What is it about this demo that is going to further qualify this opportunity that you didn't do as part of your, usually with a bigger company, they've followed one of the many methodologies out there, and they're saying, step by step. None of those methodologies, by the way, mention demonstrating a software, if you ever notice. I'm studying them for the book, but they don't talk about demonstrating the product at all. That's not part of qualification. So you can ask, why can't we? Why can't we close this without a demo? What has not, and ask as nice as you have to, but basically what has not happened that should have happened? Because your sales manager wants time to go down for dollars to go up. Their manager, the sales rep's manager, does not want them spending time on things where they could be spending it more productively. Unfortunately, a lot of the reps, where there's smoke, there's fire. They try to just throw activity in. Here, look, I'm active. I'm doing things. I'm going on pointless sales calls, which are really just demos that are unqualified, throwing it at the wall, seeing what's going to stick. Look, I'm active. Keep my bridge for my commission going. We don't promote this. See, again, you're back to asking yourself, does my or the product sell itself? Now, there's a couple ways you can do this, and we've talked about this in some of the more fundamental, lectures, we could call it. Primarily person, concept, company. So in the art of persuading in sales, we have methods or channels that we build bridges with people's minds, basically. And trust is what you're in the business of, right? So sales engineers are in the business of trust and confidence. So is the bridge between I trust everything that this person suggests, I like the idea, I'm convinced that it is a good idea, a good solution, it's a good match, it's a whatever, or I just like everything your company does and I know it technically matches with whatever I'm doing and I just follow the company. These are the ways you should always keep in mind that you should be bridging between you and them. And that's this area right here, which I can put in another color because it's way up here. Okay. So in that regard, we can use this triad as the bridge between the two of us. How in line are we? Because remember, people don't buy because you dazzle them with features. They buy because they're convinced that you understand their problem. Very important to remember that as a high-level guide. So does my product sell itself? And what this means is either through the concept of the company, because, right, it's the product, not the rep, but it also can be recommendations, referrals, which again kind of goes into concept and company, but there's other ways that things can sell for you. Reputation and stuff also comes from advertising and things like that, because selling isn't a yes/no thing in people's minds. Put yourself in a store, let's say, and there's a decision point where you're at buy or no buy. Let's just put it easy. What happens is you get, or better yet, let me do it like this: buy, no buy. Okay, dollar or no dollar. Here's what happens and in people's minds, and watch yourself the next time you're shopping, because this applies because we're trying to help people sell. You'll get something that will give them a reason to buy. And we talked about the basic channels, but you can subdivide these. But then they say, well, I thought your stuff was expensive. Oh no. Compared to all the features and all the capabilities and how it's going to match what your business goals are, remember, we're strategic sellers, we're not tactical. It'll be fine. I don't know. It seems like there's a lot of features and stuff. I don't know. I may not use it all day one. Are you going to charge me for all? I don't know. No problem at all. We can actually do it cheaper than you can build it, build or buy, right? Well, I don't know. My IT guys say they can build it and they can do it, whatever. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll do something. Okay, I'll buy it. You go over the threshold, okay? It's not that there were only positives. So think about it. When you go to a store and you see a shelf of items, those are all choices. The likelihood that you'll buy a particular one has a weight to it that is swayed or slid by the fact that there are, say, choices. Oh, there's too many choices. So now it's down to an A or B, or A or B or C or D or E. And the reason you don't want any of these is obvious, but the way you do it is through differentiators and comparisons. So when you are being compared to competitor, oh, it's just a commodity, right? You're just selling widgets, and come on, all widgets are the same. Some are made in China, some are made in Mexico or whatever, but I'm just gonna get you guys on price. Because I think your stuff is the same as everybody else's. You're selling a router, you're selling a firewall, you're selling, I don't know, development software, whatever it happens to be, change management. So Once you become a commodity, you've lost. You've lost the entire opportunity. It doesn't matter what your demo looks like. So a demo should only be used if you cannot get any other way through natural qualification, which is kind of what we were just talking about, right? And you say, well, remember the sales cycle? Here's our sales cycle, and hopefully it's going in an orderly fashion so we can bail economically if we have to. Differentiators cut these down, but we say, you know what? If I prove to you that everything else I've been telling you really will work in the software, it really will work, whether that's showing them their stuff in your software or whatever, then will you buy? Yeah, okay, I will. Now they've said, really, everything else is there. I just need some sort of extra, you want that Hellman's mayonnaise, the Kraft is over there, but the Hellman's is on sale and it's 10 cents off and now it's the same price and, you really wanted the Hellman's anyway. All right, fine. So when you go in to shop for something, now you may think that mayonnaise or potato chips or whatever it may be has no bearing on 6 and 7-digit software sales. It has everything to do with it, because the people that you're selling to, the people that have the pen, the people that are signing, they buy mayonnaise. They go out and buy sneakers. They go out and buy socks and underwear and light bulbs. They buy things that are big ticket software the same as they buy stuff that's small ticket software. It's not different. The only thing that's different between you selling and them buying high ticket software is the ticket, is the price. And why would a sales cycle take more time? Well, it takes more time because it takes more people to say no or yes. So if you want to spend over X amount of dollars, that's got to go to the lawyers, and that's got to go to corporate, and that's got to go to the, wherever else it has to go. We're not making this $2 million decision lightly here. Come on now. But guess what? They all, even if it's a link of people and they all have a veto vote, they all buy the same. So just remember, when you go buy a pack of gum and there's all that gum out there, or you do whatever, you might have your favorite brand. You might just simply like, that's company. You might just simply like menthol or whatever gum is. Great concept, right? Not company, but concept. Or you might say, so-and-so uses that gum, and I'm a big fan of that movie star that chews this gum. So I want to chew the same gum my movie star does, and that's the person. So person, concept, company. You're using it every day, and I guarantee you have no conscious thought of it, but you are. Master that, see what's going on behind the scenes, and you become a better player in the market of convincing and confidence. So we talked just for a hair. We talked for a second about the sales cycle. Now, I guess I'll have to divide it like this. So we're all going for the dollar, the almighty dollar, but we're also going for the qualification. So you could say that T0 is qualification. This is pre-qual. Really? Pre-qual, and this is traditional qualification through here. Pre-qualification, I think I went through in an earlier video where we talked about what qualification actually is. So in the qualification or the pre-qualification, right now, where you're working, do your reps want to or tell you or force you to put your demos? Do they say, like we were talking about, either pre or at the first stages? Do they say, well, we've made some claims, we're not so sure, we're going to go ahead and do kind of a second base or whichever methodology you're using, specification, or do they say, you know what, it's going to be the thing that gets the pen to paper. They just want to make sure, they just want to do this, that, and the other thing. Well, guess which one is the most efficient. One of the things that you can use to remember is in software development or a software development lifecycle, time and money to make a change, there's a graph. And it means that the cost of changing goes up tremendously as time goes by for a software product. And this actually works for everything else. So the cost of changing is very little here because we've barely done anything. We bail at this point, no problem. Here's our midpoint. But if we wait and we don't have them qualified properly, and we come all the way out here and they take a look at the software and they go, what in the world are you guys talking? That's what you've been talking about? Forget it. We've now wasted a tremendous amount of time and we didn't even get any return for it. So qualification is not a part of the demo. In a true strategic sale, it shouldn't be. Qualification, that's why I had a little thought there when I was doing it. Qualification in a true strategic sale has nothing to do with a demo. Late, mid, early. It doesn't help you qualify because you know nothing at this point. It doesn't help you here because now you're guessing based on what little you've been able to determine, because maybe this is only your second meeting and you still haven't gotten the drivers for the sale, a discrete opportunity, an identified budget, and a buyer, right? The things that we talked about for qualification. That's just a few of them. But here, I should know everything. I should have an identified project. I should have either the opportunity it'll create or the problem it'll fix. There is an identified budget. It is lined up with what they want to do, and it is a discrete sales opportunity, a DSO, versus, oh, we'll just lump you into everything else at some point in the future. So are you seeing your reps do them ad hoc? One of the reasons you see ad hoc, hope this one will right. One of the things you see with ad hoc demos is, the sales cycle slowing down. I got to throw a demo in there to fire them up. A demo will never do that. A demo with a rep who is poorly qualifying will never salvage that opportunity. Never. They have lost confidence. Okay? Leading with a demo, we talked about, you don't know anything. Your risk of missing the mark, you don't even know what the mark is. You're worse than a dog and pony show. You're just some advertisement on the side of the road at that point. Why would you bother to do it and ruin your chances? Because they may not know what they need. They think they need this. We think they need this over here, but in reality, they might need something neither one of us, and they usually do, neither one of us know about. So qualification in this particular instance of my triads is bringing these three together, and that's what qualification is. So you want to always go for methodologies or steps or processes for your sales demos that are organized, that are methodical, methodologies, right? And efficient. If you were described as someone like this by your company, you're going to be described like this by the prospects that you're hitting up. They were very organized and prepared. They were methodical. They had a beginning, a middle, and an end. They knew how to approach the problem. They definitely had done this before, and they didn't waste any time. No bullshit. Right to the point. Sounds good, right? So let's talk about qualification with regard to a demo, because it's so interwoven. I've already talked about it a few times. Man, do I have no markers that work? In qualification, what's this? 1, 2, 3. We're up to 4. Qualification. Do you see the reps doing before, during demos? Or are they doing them after? And the reason they're done after qualification, to put a finer point on this, is a very, very fundamental thing that I've talked about before. And that is asking the question, Who qualifies whom? You may think you're the only one qualifying the prospect, but you're dead wrong. You're not. Remember, you're in the supermarket. You're looking at all those things on the shelf. What are you doing? Why aren't you just buying the first one that's closest to the register, right? It's because you're qualifying each of the prospect mayonnaises or whatever else you want to use, okay? So back to here, who thinks they're in charge? Now, this is a very interesting question because now we're talking about perception. And remember what perception is? Perception is reality. Are you clever enough to let them think that they are in charge as you guide the questions that they're going to ask that you have good answers for? Let me try to find a better way to say that. Are you letting them feel or think they're in control? Are you letting them intentionally? Most people don't. Most people, I tell you, I've easily thousands of demos, online, live, everything else. And I can tell you that all the world's a stage and all the people are merely players. I'm paraphrasing, but nobody looks at it like that. I've got a script. I'm just going to go through this thing, da, 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 da. You have to understand and watch. The rep doesn't know how to do this. You have to sit there and watch who's playing which role, who's rolling their eyes, who's fidgeting, how are they sitting, are they engaging, who's giving you eye contact, who's on their phone with the rep in the corner checking all the sports scores. Okay? You have to make it seem as though, remember we talked about handing over power? Power in a sale, power in a conversation, power in just exchanges with people. Go back and watch those other videos because they talk about how you are more compelling if you give or appear, in this case, to give power to them. You do this by letting them ask questions. I'm just summarizing the video. It was a very good video, and I was very happy with it. And what it means is you put questions in their mouth that you only have good answers for. So maybe another way of looking at this is, do you plan on learning? And now this is much more fundamental level that they teach at the better sales methodologies. Are you going to be learning or teaching? Now everybody wants to say, oh, we're doing a little of both, but they don't have the skills. They don't have the person skills. They can't do two things at the same time. They can't identify which one of these is listening and which one of these is speaking. They don't know. They have a great plan perhaps, and they throw it out the window as soon as something doesn't go exactly the way it should. So you have to be adept at understanding when you're learning and when you're teaching. And I'll talk about demo event planners and meeting event planners that you and the rep should go over before you actually interact with a prospect. So you have something in front of you to check off these little boxes instead of you only getting to the first box and then you let the customer drive the prospect so that you never got to the other qualifying items. So understand that every interaction that you have, if you're qualifying them, you're learning. If they're qualifying you, you're teaching. Just try to remember that. Your reps are much more haphazard. They're not as regimented and what do you want to call it? Technical engineering ways of looking at things, right? One person looks at something and sees beauty. The engineer sees structure and beauty in the structure versus aesthetics. So I'm trying to move this along as fast as I can. Let's talk about, what was that for? Let's talk about presentation, because that's a great segue, versus what? What am I going to put here? You get a star if you said demonstration. So what's the difference between these two words? Really good question, right? In a demonstration of software, live or otherwise, and I'll talk about what those are, choices are, but are you presenting something or are you demonstrating it? Is it a feature or a function? Does it create an opportunity or does it fix a problem? That's what discrete sales opportunities are. I've given another video on that when we talked about sales. I think it was the second video, sales engineering. A discrete sales opportunity should be created for what you're doing, not muddling it together. Okay? So along with the 2 to 3 minutes you have, your initial 2 to 3 to connect with your audience, online or otherwise, you have to establish which style you're going to give them. Well, who cares what style it is? Well, it's because people only get or take information certain ways, orally, written, or visually. Visually, I mean, I know written's visual, but visually meaning symbols, a lot of what I do with diagrams and flowing and stuff. I try to appeal to all three types. The most base or fundamental are pictures. The next least common is writing, and the one that you find many of the really old people that you talk to, they just want you to tell it to them, just explain it to them. They don't like having to mess with things. Like, the newer generation, the generations want details. They want information. The older you get, I guess, the more you just like ideas. So what are you trying to do? And now you're not going to be able to ask the rep this. They're going to go, dude, we're trying to sell stuff. But you should be asking yourself, because you're the one who's going to structure that part of the presentation, the supporting documentation. You're probably writing white papers if you're any good. You're doing the how-to videos on your website, the little 5-minute, how to add a user, etc. You're doing the weekly webinars for your customers, and recording them and making them available for download. So you, as a sales engineer, if you're a rock star, you are all over this. You know exactly what you're trying to do for this meeting. Why? Because if the rep did what they were supposed to do, and again, they have a boss, use the chain of command, then you understand where you are in the process, what the objections are, the equipment they're using, etc. Hopefully that's because you've been in on it, visually, physically, actually involved in the sales process up to this point. And remember, we're pushing for a demo at the very end, so it's not like that stuff hasn't happened, right? What are you really trying to do? Are you just giving some sort of generic kind of presentation, or is it an actual demonstration of something? Well, here's the way that you can break it down. A demo is a demonstration is whether it's a pre-canned, whether it's vaporware, whether it's live, risky. It's a seeing and poking, let's call it, because a lot of the times I let people on a live, I know it's risky, but I'm good enough with the software. I've made myself good enough. It's not a risk. I let them play with it. So seeing and poking the thing, whatever it is, right? That's a demo. Just seeing it, poking it, whatever it is that we've been talking about. It does not have to be a tactical device. It can be a system of systems. It can be a concept. If you're doing your job, strategic sales, can't spell. Strategic sales are about biz goals. Tactical sales are about fix a thing. So business goals are opportunities. They want something they don't have. Tactical sales are they have something they don't want. Been over that, I think, in the first and the second video. Lecture, whatever you want to call it. So the demo is not a tactical, can the X cross out the Y and give me a red 4? It's, is it going to solve the business opportunity that we're trying to create? And guess what? Where the money is. The money's up here. The money's not down here. The next thing that you do to make things happen in the sales cycle is something called a pilot. Now, a pilot is not, unfortunately for people who don't really do this a lot, the same as a proof of concept. A pilot program or a pilot installation, a pilot system is one that is put in as a precursor to production. The pilot that you put in, which may tap into their existing data and have it running with their data, their information, their stuff, whatever you want to call it, this may well go into the staging device or staging system, if you're lucky, because this is the sale here. So let's say you want to have something in there and your thing's going to run. It's not going to interfere with what's existing. It's just a pilot, but it's a precursor to going into the production, which means it's in staging. As you know, we have a staging system, and maybe you push a version, maybe there's a patch, maybe there's a fix, maybe there's a different, whatever it is. Then you go into production mode where users are actually interacting with it. Okay, so this might be, I'm just going to loosely call it QA, even though most companies don't have dedicated QA when they're using software is not their line of business. But let's just call it quality assurance. We're just making sure the patch and stuff fixes and works. And if you're smart, your company should be doing this, even if it's for your software and somebody else's, right? You want to be in control. So what's that leave us with? A proof of concept. Well, when you look at these like this, you say, oh, a POC. Oh, it's proving a concept. Duh. Remember we talked about the end of the sales cycle? Remember? Does it do what we claim? And I hate to say it, but sales reps in general are not trusted. And the sales rep, remember I said we're in the confidence game? I don't mean confidence as far as scamming game. We're in the confidence game in that we give confidence that what the sales rep claims is reality. Again, forgive me if I'm too direct, if I'm getting straight to the point and people get nervous. I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. So if a rep claims something and goes back to checking their scores, it doesn't mean anything to a prospect until the sales rep can satisfactorily answer or demonstrate all that was claimed as being viable and true, and maybe even a couple of things that they hadn't even thought about. If you're doing your job qualifying and you're limiting scope creep. So that's why. Why is it at the end? Because we have to have time to claim it. Makes sense, right? We have to have time to actually make the claim in order for us to do a proof of concept. This, to me, is what a demo really is in a true strategic sales cycle, whether you're creating it around the mess that your reps and your different reps are creating or not. You should be looking for the last part of qualification. And again, optional is the actual demonstration itself. A demo on its own, this could be something that they're downloading off a website. It could be maybe they're tuning into a webinar that you have. Maybe you're at a conference, done tons of those. But a proof of concept is more, we claim, so that means you're going to see our thing with your data. Maybe, whatever. And they're going to see it and go, yay. So to me, a demo is literally a demonstration. Imagine a crowd of people around somebody doing something. The performer, the person doing it, doesn't know anything about them. Look at those knife salesmen and all that stuff at those hard home shows. It's generic. It's just whatever. It's if anything, it's meant to weed people out. And the problem with doing that, and the reason I don't like this as much, is because at least for the public, is that it gives them a reason to say no. And we never, if you remember the earlier videos about sales processes, we never, ever want to allow our prospect to make the decision as to whether they want our software or not. It's not up to them. You've relinquished too much control if you've let that happen. It's not up to them. We're not convincing them to buy our software. If so, you're still selling tactically, and you're going to struggle. You're going to have a hard time. I don't talk about that. I don't waste your time. I'm talking about true strategic sales, the kind that makes you big money and makes you successful. And let's face it, it's more fun. So I've gone just about 45 minutes here, and we talked about the last part about the demo, the generic demo. I forgot about the part of a PowerPoint presentation, vaporware, that kind of thing, where let me give you a generic presentation, and you see the deck, right? And the deck will be something like about us, right? How many times have you seen this? Logos, right? You got the logo page with all the logos. Look at our marquee customers, look, we're trusted by them. What's wrong with you? And then you go into product names and solutions and what you do, and maybe your mission, vision, values, and you've put people to sleep at this point, right? This is not an engaging presentation in any way, shape, or form. You're already 15 minutes into this. Oh, let's do our intros and, hi, I'm Bob. Yeah, not so good. Then eventually at some point, you wake them up because you say, at this point, we're going to cut over to a demo, which of course is not geared toward them. It's too early in the relationship. It's going to be something to give them a reason to say no. Their default action will always be a no unless convinced otherwise. I don't want to give them the option. If I give them enough information to say no, I've failed to do my job. Then you might come back. Now, you can also do vaporware, right? Vaporware is just screenshots. Typically, if you're going to do this ad hoc, the next repeatable is the next level above ad hoc would be that you're doing a set of pre-canned shots. You're not actually demoing live. So the word demo might mean, here's a couple of slides, and you've seen it, right? Hundreds of slides, and you X out the ones that you're not going to talk about, right? Oh my goodness. Think about how inefficient that is. So be prepared for lazy reps. Reps that think that selling high-ticket software is the same as selling low-ticket, and you just shotgun and see what sticks. If you are letting yourself sell like that, if your income is dependent on the way the reps are selling, and you're letting them do that, and you're not saying anything, you're not trying to change things to be better, then you really deserve not to make the money, not to make the commission. You really need to put your foot down, however you're tactically able to do it in your company, socially, whatever, and say, I understand that you've been doing this way a long time, but this is the way that I like to do things. And even though we can continue to do it your way, I'm going to be framing what you do with my own repeatable methodology. So I'll leave you with, because I got to do a whole nother part for this. This one's become too long. Typically, a good rep, a good sales engineer has 5 steps, and I'm not even going to go through it. The ones I use, but typically you're going to do 5 steps. What your rep is going to do though is anything but. Will blue work? They're going to come in and they're going to be all over the place. And then they're going to go over to here, maybe back, and then they're going to go over to 3, and then they'll skip right past 4 and they'll go to 5, right? Something like that. This is how reps do things. That's what I mean by framing. You still have to frame where they are and what they're doing, because when you're asked, when you try to document, where are they at? How are they doing? How's the sale going? You can't just go, I have no clue. They haven't bought it yet. You can't say that. You have to give the appearance, even though you've got somebody who has no experience doing whatever they're doing and they're just trying to get appointments. where you're the show, and I think I talked about that, you have to say, well, we're still qualifying. We're still looking for that discrete sales opportunity. We haven't identified the buyer yet. We haven't seen an actual budget line item for this particular expenditure, whether it's fixing something or creating opportunity. Oh, okay, great, thanks. Right? So maybe, and the better managers that you'll get, or the VP of sales, which typically, and I mean by VP, I mean a real VP, not everybody's a VP, but an actual real company has an actual vice president of sales that typically a sales engineer should report to, not engineering, will ask you, well, a good one will ask you, where do you think so-and-so needs work? Well, you know what? They didn't talk about doing this over here. And I think that because it plays into what we do so much, I think we should really let them focus on here a little bit. They'll go ahead around and talk to them and say, hey, you know what? I think this is not Pat thinks or anybody else thinks. They will direct their own direct reports through their own regional managers and such to do what you've told them in a concise methodological way. They trust you because methodologies sell. Methodologies in sales are like sex in advertising. It's telling the world very subtly and forwardly, I have my act together. If you're all over the place and you're letting the customer lead you around and you're the tail on the dog, oh, I don't know, they won't call me back, they won't do this, oh, I keep calling, I'm doing this and whatever. There's a reason they're not calling. There's a reason there's no there's a reason that it's going back and forth, because you're not in control. And remember, as I end this first part of this video, and it should be able to be done in another one, we don't, in a strategic sale, ever put the customer in charge. We don't, or prospect, you understand, growing the account versus, okay, hope you understand when I use these terms. We don't let them make any decisions. The decision to buy or not to buy is not theirs to make. They don't decide which part of the sales cycle that they're in. We don't let them or give them the impression or the opportunity to drop off the radar. We have a plan. They're coming along. We are the experts. They're not. They make shoes. We make, I don't know, software that helps you deliver shoes or whatever it might be. CRM. Who knows? Right? You be an expert in shoes, and we're very humble about that. We don't understand the business of shoes, but we understand business of retail. We understand manufacturing. We understand shipping, logistics. That is wherever your specialty is, where your specialty is, right? Don't belittle what they're doing and say, oh, it's just, shoes are the same as cars, right? Oh my goodness, you're going to get out of a meeting so quick. Your head will spin. So the big takeaway here about this first part about demonstrations, and why you see I kind of hate that word and why it doesn't fit with strategic sales, is that there is a time and place for it, and that's tactical. If you don't care, you want to go willy-nilly, you want to go ahead and use a shotgun, that's fine, that's great, have a good day. It's not strategic. You're not relationship building. You're not in control. You're just hoping for the best. Okay? And if that's what you're doing and it's working for you, then really you and I have no business communicating. You're doing great. You don't need me. But if you want to take to the next level, if you're not making enough money, you can't meet your commissions, you're just not moving product, things just aren't gelling, and you can't get any of the reps to do the same thing twice or at least like each other, then yeah, we have a lot to talk about. So I'll leave you with that. And I'll go ahead and basically erase this and start another video, which I'm going to do in just a second so we can run right through it, which is going to be the last part of this, much more detail of getting down to where the rubber meets the road. Because right now we talked about why you do a demo, what is a demo, what part of the sales cycle are you in, what about qualification, and the differences between like a pilot and a proof of concept and such. So thanks for hanging around. Thanks for being subscribed, because I notice a lot of people do subscribe now. I guess it gets over a certain level and people do. It really motivates me to make the videos if I know somebody's going to watch. So when you like a video and when you subscribe or you spread the word, I really appreciate it. I know you're used to people saying that, but I mean, in my particular case, I'm writing a book about this. I could just write the book and not even tell anybody anything and just charge everybody for information and see what happens. I'm much more of a content creator that likes to share and get people enthusiastic. And I'm hoping that I can get folks who are watching to be interested in contacting me about relating some of their experiences for the book. So anyway, I'll talk to you guys in a little bit.